Welcome to Season 4 of Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boate, and this season we're stepping fully into our power. The heat, the hormones, the heartbreak, the healing. This is midlife, raw and redefined. Each episode, you'll hear stories of humans who are rewriting the rules, reclaiming their bodies, their desires, their voices. This is where we stop shrinking, start shining, and remember who the hell we are. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's an awakening. Let's get transforming 45. Oh, here we are. One word, 2026. How does this happen? Every year continues to surprise me how quickly we cycle through 365 days and we find ourselves again at this time of reflection. And as I am recording today, it feels very metaphorical in that I am warm and cozy in my recording studio while outside the weather rages in a significant winter storm full of swirling snow and howling wind, and I can hear it around the corners of my home. And it is reflective of the year that was 2025. I just spent some time going back and listening to all of my one-word episodes. What a gift to have now 4 years worth of episodes where I reflect on the year that was and what is to come. And what struck me so deeply was the difference between 2023 and 2024. My one-word episode that reflected on 2024 going into 2025, really, I could feel how much had shifted in me from the me who had been previously. And I am giving myself permission to love that woman who existed before 2024 and her idealism and her assuredness. And the thing I love most about the version of me going into 2025 was this much greater comfort with the unknown. I set an intention for last year with one word, absolutely knowing that the year would be whatever it was going to be. And I wanted to reflect on that because I know there are lots of opinions around the one word practice. And for me, what it is a root. It doesn't mean that it is the only thing I focus on for an entire year. It is a centering point. So when a lot of things start happening in the world or in my life in particular, having that word to come back to is just a centering point. It doesn't mean that it is the only thing. Like all things in life, there is nuance in what we do and many, many shades of gray. And I appreciate how much the 2024 version of me learned that and was able to articulate it. And so last year's word was ease. And that's why I started with this metaphor of being safe and warm and cozy while the weather storms around me, because that is what 2025 felt like for me. 2025, for me, in my little sphere, gave me exactly what I asked for. After many years of massive change and transformation, I needed a year of ease where my nervous system could settle and I could do some healing and some integration of all that had come before. And that is exactly what 2025 gave to me in my little world. While globally, the world stormed around me. And I did not ignore that or resist it, but from my space of ease, I was able to acknowledge all of the storm that was happening in the world and give my energy to as much peace as possible and staying grounded in my own ease. And it can be really challenging to be in a space that feels safe and calm when we see the chaos of the globe happening around us. It can shake our foundations, and staying in these foundations actually is exactly what we need to do so that we can share love, peace, kindness in the ways that are available to us. And so, as I was thinking about 2026 and what 2026 will bring, what I know for sure is who knows? We are living in a time of significant upheaval. And so the only thing I'm actually sure of is uncertainty. And settling into that kind of energy isn't easy, but it is really important. And so I want to share my practice for how I choose a word to represent an intention for a year. And I have two strategies. One is where I let myself sit in quiet contemplation and let words come up to the surface, and I write them all down. And then I sort of filter through those words to look at what is it that really is resonating for me. And I'll give myself some time to sit with that. And then one word will eventually come to the surface as this is the word. And then I reflect on why that is and how I am intentioning that for the year to come. The other way is that a word just comes and I start hearing it and seeing it synchronistically all over the place. And for the last 2 years, that is how my word has come to be. It just sort of end of November, beginning of December, as we're entering into reflective times. In 2024, ease was what just started coming to the surface. And I started hearing and seeing that word everywhere, which for me always is the reflect back of, yeah, this is what is meant to be for now. And that is exactly what happened this year as well. A word came to the surface and I started hearing it and seeing it in the context that I meant it everywhere. And so for me, that is always the universe reflecting back. This is your intention for the year ahead. It's this co-created moment that we have together, which is really beautiful. And so after a year of ease, which is exactly what I needed, my intention for 2026 is a little more energy. I was able to let my nervous system settle back into a place that feels good, where I'm not waking up every morning with my heart racing, feeling fear and discouragement, which really is a place that I had gotten to after all of the upheaval of 2024. And I'm so grateful for this year. There's still things that were not easy, that were challenging. And because I had so much space in this year, I then had the capacity to manage the things that were not easy and that were challenging. And so I feel ready. I am ready to go into 2026 open and ready for things that I have been afraid to ask for. In my reflection around this word, there were patterns that started showing themselves. For me, it shows up as memories in my mind that play like movies. And one of my main patterns has been intimidation of people who I think have more status than I do. And that pattern started playing out as the movie from when I was a little girl and would see girls who were older than I was, or who I thought was more popular than I was, or who had more, from my perspective, they had more than I did. And my reaction to those people was always intimidation. I was so intimidated. And I have seen that pattern play out in lots of ways throughout my life. That continual intimidation of of other people where I feel very intimidated because there is this sense of lack in myself. And then I morph and shift and change to be whatever that person needs me to be. I didn't ever think I was a codependent person until I really started to pay attention to the fact that I am never comfortable in a space until I observe that everyone around me seems to be comfortable and happy and calm. And in that moment, I realized, oh shit, actually, I am incredibly codependent because I will shift and change whatever I need to about me and how I am in a space to make sure that everybody else is comfortable, whether I am or not. And so those two patterns of being intimidated and then being a shapeshifter to make sure that everybody else is comfortable, I saw how those two things were weaving together. And the question I ask on the show all the time, right, is who are you? And how did life introduce you to this version? And so I am really having to sit with who am I and what do I really want? Because I have spent so much time being a shapeshifter to make sure that everybody else is comfortable that I almost don't know what it is that I actually need. I'm practicing walking in my mind right now, walking into spaces and just being myself and focusing on what I actually need in a space rather than doing the scan to see what everybody else needs. So, with those patterns working themselves out in my body, and knowing that that is the place I really need to come from, my word for 2026 is wealth. And it is wealth in all contexts. We focus often on wealth in a singular area, a wealth in financial resources. And I am not shying away from the fact that I'm calling that in as well. I am calling in wealth in financial resources. And I am also calling in wealth in opportunity, in showing up fully in my body, feeling the bottom of my feet on the ground and thinking about who I really am, what I really want, opening that up and being excited about opportunity that will come because I am in a space of being fully grounded in this self that I am right now feels really expansive and exciting. So, yes, wealth in financial resources, wealth in opportunity to share my voice in a world where my voice matters. Just saying that out loud is not an easy thing for me, which might seem counterintuitive because I'm a podcast host. And for the most part, I make space for other people to share their stories. So claiming that my voice matters, that my story matters, that I actually matter and can shine brightly in this world to attract the opportunities so that I can share that. In the past, I don't know that I could have said those words out loud. And so that feels really exciting to be able to say that out loud. Wealth in opportunity, wealth in being fully myself. The wealth that comes from internal deep connection to self. And I'm not saying that I have all of the answers to that at this moment. And it absolutely is my focus for this year, is filling myself with the wealth of who I actually am in this skin suit at this time on the planet. And as I say that, the storm that has been howling around my home suddenly lightened, and there is a little more light coming into my space. And again, it feels like that co-creation moment with the universe. And I am inherently a skeptic and a doubter. And that might not be obvious on the outside, but every time I say a sentence like that, like, oh, look, the storm is lightening, there is a part of me, the academic, that pulls back and is like, well, that happens in a storm. So I'm also looking at the wealth of belief. when we just let ourselves believe. Because when I ask myself the question of, how's it working out for you to constantly pull back on every move forward? If I'm pulling myself back, how's that working for you? And the answer is it's not really, because I will take a step forward and immediately yank myself back. And so I am letting that go and letting myself live in a wealth of belief. So when I say the word wealth, it is all encompassing of letting the energy flow, of receiving, of letting myself know that I am worthy of the wealth of belief, of resources, of opportunity, of love, of joy. And does that feel easy when we are in a global collective time of incredible upheaval? No. And at the same time, I also know that this is the role I can play. That despite the storm and despite the howling wind, when we can ground into ourselves and know that we are worthy, that is the medicine that we all need right now. And so 2026, here I am, open and ready to receive the wealth that I am inherently valued. So I can't wait to hear what is your word or intention or your practice, if it's different, for moving a new into a new year, into a new set of 365 days. Part of the healing that I have been doing this year also has been going back into what were the things that brought me joy before I became numb to everything. I talked about this in my one word for 2024 was just how numb I was. And that's another place where I want to experience wealth, because I've started having moments of the big waves of joy, of excitement, where I find myself singing, dancing, just letting myself actually feel some joy, some fun. And so one of the things that used to really bring me so much joy was reading the works of Lucy Maud Montgomery. And so I've gone back and I've been watching the Kevin Sullivan 1985 miniseries. It was a Christmas gift I gave to myself, buying the full package. And the reconnection with that girl before she was encased in ice and encased in numbness has been this beautiful opening, this beautiful accepting of the wealth that that girl knew she had at that time. And so that is what I want this wealth to feel like, is the big, wide, open heart, knowing inherently that I was worthy and valuable, and that joy and fun was a daily occurrence. And so I invite you to share that. What are the things that feel really good for you? And that could be the basis for your intention in moving forward in 2026. So please share in the comments. Go into where you can send me a voice note. There's nothing that I love more than hearing your voices as well, because all of your voices also really matter. And I'm so grateful that I get to create a space where people feel safe to really share their stories. So 2026 in Transforming 45 is incredibly exciting. I have so many incredible humans. I cannot wait to share their episodes with you. They are insightful and interesting and joyful, shifting, and I open up as well from a space of welcoming opportunity for the stories that are out there of people who I maybe would have been intimidated of being part of. I'm no longer letting myself be intimidated. So all the stories that are meant for this community to hear, I call all of those in as well. So, my friends, my community, wishing you what you need in this time as we transition into a new 365 days. When I was watching that mini series and thinking back to the Anne of Green Gables books, one of my favorite quotes always was, "Tomorrow is fresh with no mistakes in it." So when we look ahead to the fresh 365 days ahead, what do you need? Where will your footprints land? And how will you write this chapter with exactly the intention that you need? Thank you for hanging out with me on Transforming 45. If you laughed, nodded, or had an oh wow moment, hit follow and share it with your favorite midlife human. Find me on Instagram at @lboat and keep those transformations coming.
Electric acid.